All right. Hello, everybody. Just making sure that we are connected, that everyone can see and hear me. I hope you're doing well today. Thank you so much for this very special milestone video. I always look forward to it. I've been doing it on the quarters, like every 25,000, just because I don't want to wait 2 years to do the Q&As, and I know that you guys get a lot out of them as well. So if you want to see more of them, let's drive up the subscriber count higher, and I'll do these as frequently as we can. But it felt like it was time today, and I took some time this morning to try to pick some of my favorite questions. And if we have extra time, I'll either look and see if I forgot anything, or if there's any questions from the crowd today, maybe I can answer a couple. My name's Nicholas Ashbaugh. Apollo's in the background chilling out. He's super peaceful, so I thought I'd leave him alone. If he comes over here, I'll have him say hi to you. But in the meantime, we're going to go way off script today. And what this is, it's not a typical reading. I'm answering questions that were already submitted through members and Patreon supporters. And like I said, if we have some extra time, I'll answer some other ones. So my name's Nicholas Ashbaugh, and I'm going to answer your questions today. And thank you for your support. This is my way of giving back. So let me pull up the presentation and we'll just kind of dig straight in. This is basically going to be kind of like an intuitive development video because you guys ask a lot of good questions about psychic development and things like that. So let me just get my presentation ready and we'll share it and we'll just go question by question. I think I got about 25 here and we'll see what time allows for with the rest here. So let me take a drink. So grab a mug of coffee or iced coffee, if you will, and let's get started. This was a really good question here. What's your most powerful tool to tune into your intuition? So one thing that I found the older that I get and the further along my sort of path in spirituality and life is just I need to be rested. So there's meditation, which is basically a way to clear the thoughts and the cobwebs in your head, but there's also sleep. And for me, sleep is also a powerful tool because I've gotten decently good at lucid dreaming, dream interpretation, and it's a natural way to connect and enhance your psychic abilities. When rested, this is part of the reason I had to push it from 11 to 12 today. I have no problem doing that now if I need to, because I need to have enough cognition and my body needs to be awake. I need to walk the dog. I need to really be present to be channeled. So that's my first piece of advice is get a lot of sleep, drink and eat properly, and take care of this because this is the channel to the beyond, okay? Rest. But of course, there are different divination methods. I love tarot. Tarot is not the only divination. Sleep, meditation, writing. I used to write everything down. It doesn't matter if I'm physically, manually writing it or typing it. It's still a channeled energy. But those three things I think are the key to success and will help you out quite a bit. Okay? Next. What are some of your favorite words, phrases, or rituals that you use to cut cords and draining energies? For those of you that have probably been following me upwards of 8.5 years or so, you know that I use these, 3 words? I release you, or I release this. Actually, just the 2 words, I release. It's basically saying I have the power to do this and this is what I'm going to do. So what I like to do is kind of try to make it a pleasant disconnect from whatever it is, usually whomever it is that we need to disconnect from. So you could say, I release you from my mind, my body, my spirit. I release any debts, past, present, or otherwise, implicit or explicit, in this lifetime and in others. In doing so, I free us both to live our best lives. Something like that. It's a blessing, and it's a release. If you're going to release, why not just sort of like, it's kind of a nice way of just cleaning out, severing, and making sure that it's almost like sealed off. That's what I wanted to say. You're sealing off that connection so it doesn't happen again. Okay? There was another sort of thing here. I think the mind's like a channel. So if you're having a hard time, this kind of goes with the next one. If you're having a hard time being distracted over something, like you change the channel. So that second piece connects to this one. When negative thoughts enter the mind, how can we use these tools? Use these as tools to point to areas where we need to focus on our own psyche. Well, first of all, a lot of times it's fear-based, so just face the fear. And then I also like to turn fear and the sort of negative questions inside out. And this is a technique that I've taught many times here, but some of you may be watching for the first time, so let me reiterate it. So if you have a fear like, I can't win, then I would say, well, why can't I win? Or I will win. What if they don't like me? Well, what if they like you? you know what? I think they're going to like you. The most important thing is that you like yourself. So you just start reprogramming it. The fear is there because you care. You are usually not afraid of things that you're not attached to, that you don't care about. So when you really want to do well in an outcome, there's often fear of failure. So we just turn the fear of failure inside out. And any negative thoughts. If you're fixated on someone, remember that the more that you fixate, the more power and energy that you give. So sometimes being indifferent to or focusing instead on someone or something that you can have an impact on, that's going to be a lot more effective. But that's a tool there that can help you out. How old were you when you recognized you had gifts and decided that you wanted to share them with the world? So deciding to share them and recognizing them are two different points. I decided to share them sometime around 2013. I didn't actually start doing, I did have the video, if you look at the creation date for the channel, it's 2013. None of the videos exist from that time period. I was uploading a lot in 2015, but I pulled most of those off too. 2016 and beyond is when I really kind of knew what I was trying to do here. But I had an inner knowing probably as far back as 2010 that I wanted to do something different than I'd gone to school for. So 2015 was when I committed to it. 2010 is when I realized it. When did I recognize the gifts? I was brought up in a family, in a time, in a community where it wasn't really something that was talked about. Like the only connection that we had when I was growing up, you would hear like Shirley MacLaine talking about her book, or maybe John Edwards or Sylvia Brown. There was like a few psychic mediums or people that were kind of out there, but they typically were running the talk show circuit and things like that. So it wasn't really well respected. So it wasn't anything that I even thought I want to connect with that kind of energy. I had intuitions as a kid that now I recognize as intuition. So I knew if someone was, I'll talk more about this, but because there was another question, like what was the earliest memory, but I'll kind of answer it now. Like I would know when I was going to have a test at school. I knew if someone was talking about me behind my back. I still do. I knew if there was some sort of danger or thing that I needed to take care of. And so little things all the time would pop up, but it wasn't until I had met another psychic that I knew from a past life and we had some shared dreams and experiences. I'm like, oh, this is more than just a hunch. I met some people. I had some, actually when my dad passed away and things like that, those sorts of energies were stronger, and that'll answer a future question here. So throughout my life, but it wasn't until I was probably in my 30s that I really kind of like awakened and thought, oh, this isn't just something that I can ignore. So lots of different answers to that multi-part question. What advice would you give to a reader on how to remember what every card means without having to read the booklet? Don't try to learn the whole deck at once. I think the best thing that you could do is start with the major arcana, all 21 cards or whatever, and look at those first. And you can read with just those, and they're so much easier to read with because each one has a clear delineated thing. You know what you're in for if you have the Lovers. You know what's going on if it's the Tower. You know the World. So they're just big cards that have easy kind of meaning. So learn those first. Then I would say work your way through the suits and meditate on them and learn the meaning for one card and just make that your focus for the day. Now, then why not just do what I do? I practice what I preach. I pull a card every day for us. As a reader, you don't really need to pull more than one card for the day to see like, what's my main focus today? Do I need to be aware of something? So just keep it simple. Do one. Learn it. Focus on what happened that day. Reflect, then read the book. What did that card have to say? What's your experience? Journal how one of my teachers that I learned from, he said, you're going to have a different connection to each card that is outside of the Rider-Waite-Smith Little White Book. So you are going to develop a deeper understanding and a personal understanding. So every reader will interpret a card differently, and it doesn't make their interpretation wrong. It means that they are using that. It's the same way like a word can mean different things to different people. These are just alphabets or letters or runes or symbols. It's you that's going to ascribe the meaning to it. So start slow. I would say major arcana, and then take a suit at a time and keep the court cards until the end. Even readers get tripped up on the court cards sometimes. So that's my advice. Okay. Journal your experiences. It will help you. Have you always remembered your dreams? Have you had to do any work with dream recall to get where you remember them? If the latter, what techniques help the most? So I'm really grateful that like it kind of runs in the family, being able to remember dreams. My dad's mother, my paternal grandmother, she would just like wake up in the morning and talk about all these crazy dreams she had. And the family kind of, brushed it off, but I know now that she was plugged in, she was intuitive. She was just of a generation that didn't know how to do it. Like she must have been born towards the turn of last century. She almost lived, she was in her 90s, I think, before she passed away. Long time. She was on the planet for a long time. But in that generation, it really wasn't understood. People just thought, oh, she's talking again. But she had great dream recognition. She didn't always know how to put it together. And she was talking to her family, her grandchildren, probably to get some advice on it. So, so my dream energy comes from my dad's side of the family. Psychic intuition, both sides, actually. My mom and her brother, who are both in spirit now, they talked about seeing their grandmother, and I can't remember which side of the family it was, but after she passed, they saw her in the room watching over them, and it freaked them out as kids. Both of them shared the memory, and both of them saw the ghosts. My mom had the ability to astral project, but she didn't know what that meant. And so like it was on both sides of the family. With dream interpretation, though, it was something that I just sort of worked with. I think I I'll talk about it later, but spirituality, it's a practice. You practice, you develop it, and lucid dreaming comes with practice, with being aware of the fact that you're in a dream and then not feeling like you need to get out of the dream, doing something about it or paying attention to the details. Dreams are not necessarily 100%, you can't just take them on face value. So if you see something in a dream and it scares you, it could just be a symbol like the death card of change, right? Or if one of the most common ones, if you have no clothes and you're in front of an audience, you just feel exposed, right? Like the people can see through you. So you have to look at the symbols and figure out like, oh, how did this play out in my life? What does this symbol in my dream mean to me? I don't have a hard time with totems because I work with a lot of nature decks. So things just sort of naturally start to come together when I'm looking at the dreams. And I don't pay attention to every dream or every detail in every dream. It's the ones that move me the most. And I wake up and I think, wow, that was crazy. I need to look into this a little bit. Okay. What's the best way I find to communicate with loved ones that have passed? So I'm super grateful. This is one of the best parts of being a medium. And by the way, I'll talk about this later. Not all tarot readers are psychic. Not all psychics are mediums. Not all mediums and psychics read tarot. We'll break it down in a few minutes. But I do have mediumship abilities. I can't just turn them on like this. But I've been able to communicate many times with my mom who's passed, also with several relatives. And then I also have a lot of connections with angelic or guides, angelic entities or guides as well. So for me, it's when I'm least, like when you're not trying, you're most connected. I know this doesn't make a lot of sense, but if you're just open to receive and you also disbelief or trying to sort of like control the time and the when and all of that, it's not going to work. So what I typically do is you can set up an appointment. This is something that one of my teachers taught me. Set up an appointment with spirit. And let's imagine like every Saturday morning at 9 o'clock in the morning, you've set aside half an hour for meditation. And you say, during this period, I'm going to be present. I'm going to tune in. And if messages need to come through, I'm listening. Maybe every Friday night, you're going to say, if someone of the highest light and energy wants to come through and show me something that's going to help me or meet me in the dream space, that's fine. But you could ask for your guides to protect you and to guide that connection. So set up an appointment, a recurring appointment in your calendar. And then I did this with my mom, actually. And then spirit comes through because she said, I'd like to see you, but there's a lot going on. I said, how about this time? She told me the days and times. I'm like, yeah, I'll pick that one. And she tends to show up then, not every week, but every other week or every third week, she'll show up then and bring a message or something. It's really close. We're actually hedging up on her 1-year anniversary to passing into spirit. So she has a little bit of soul work to do, and then she's going to go up a level. So dreams, absolutely the easiest way for everybody, for the most part, to connect with the loved ones. But right after my mom passed, I heard her whisper in my ear, She was talking about like, oh my God, I can't believe it happened so fast. And it was like she was right here, or you're listening to it on the phone. So I do have clairaudient abilities sometimes, but it's either the other side needs to want to talk to you a lot, or you have to be really open. And then when it happens, one other piece of advice: when you're able to make a connection with spirit, don't use your physical voice. It's a great way to come out of the channel. So keep your eyes closed and talk in your head. Hear your voice in your head, and they hear that projection in the metaphysical realm. We don't need to use this. This is just for you. Because my experience with most ascended spirits and energies is they talk through this, and in the crown and the third eye. We hear it, we think we hear it in here, but we're hearing it in the theater of our head. So the way my mediumship works anyway is I just project the thought. I hear the thought, and I ask the question that way to them. And I hear them in my head as if they were talking in my ears. It's kind of weird to articulate that, but that's kind of it. I've also had conversations using tarot. And I can sometimes feel the presence, or I just feel a strong connection or warmth. I'm like, all right, so let's do it this way. Let's let the cards do the work, so I don't have to work so hard and you don't have to work so hard, because there's work on both sides. So you just pull a card, or you ask questions one card at a time. And that's another future question here, but that's my advice. You can use the cards and see what's going on. So you can say, how are you feeling? And if you get the 10 of Cups, they're really happy to see you, or something like that. Okay. What do you do when you feel blocked, when you feel like your intuition is blocked? I try not to think that, because thoughts manifest. So if I'm just not feeling something someday, then I change what I can. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to do this today. I'm going to focus on this instead. But I tend to just change the thought in my head. I'm like, it'll work. It'll happen. I trust myself. Just trust yourself. Stop thinking that. I know it sounds obvious, but it actually is the most powerful thing, is to stop using the word blocked. Focus on opening up, focus on taking care of yourself, and look at the fear. The fear is what's blocking you, okay? How do you get past your fears, if any? Move forward with your gift of being a natural born healer, teacher, and life coach. Stop worrying so much about what others think. 6 of Wands, we care a lot about what others think, but we shouldn't always. I also put in my answer that a lack of movement due to fear is guaranteed failure. So rather than worrying about what other people think or how something is going to be received, it's so much more powerful to simply just go for it, right? And I think that at the end of your days, it's really you that's judging your higher self, your ability, what you've been doing. And if you could simply just allow for yourself to be successful, it's going to be so much better. So not trying is going to manifest your fear. Trying, you may disprove the fear. That makes sense? I hope it does. All right. Let's take a look. All right. So the next one. Do you feel that it is possible to be intuitive or able to access your intuitive abilities if you are dealing with grief and depression? Absolutely it is. But you shouldn't probably make major decisions during that period. So I've been super grateful to be able to connect with a lot of loved ones who have passed, including most recently my mother. But you may not be able to see decision-making in your life the clearest. This is where you might want to lean on an expert, talk to a friend, have some other people come in and make sure that your grief isn't creating a block. One of my relatives recently sort of said the analogy of, you pull the veil over classically when you're grieving. She said there's like a veil of grief that can block the third eye or block your perception. So that's more the concern than can you connect. You can connect to the other side, you can connect to your intuition, but you may be missing some things because you're focusing on the emotion of grief, okay? So I think that being able to process grief is important, and we do it differently in different amounts of time. And I think that whatever is going to be best for you to process the grief would be important, but if it can actually, being in a state of grief, you can be more connected to spirit. But you're not necessarily going to be a better decision maker. They're not mutually inclusive. Okay? I see questions. Hold questions. Because if I have time at the end, I'll answer it. I don't have a moderator today, so also be polite in chat, and we'll do our best to kind of look at all of this. All right. Could you recognize a spirit guide who hasn't incarnated, or at least not in this lifetime, in the same way that you could recognize a loved one in spirit? So the cool thing about basically spiritual energy, especially like if we're talking about a non-corporeal being, an angel, an ascended master, or someone who's never been born, and there are spirits who have never been born into a physical body, yeah, you can recognize them because they have an energy signature. They feel a certain way when you're in their presence. Some of them have a certain vocal, like if they talk to you, they're going to have the same voice. Typically, they appear in a way that's comforting to you. If you've ever seen the movie Contact with Jodie Foster, there's a cool scene where she meets an extraterrestrial, but it does the same sort of thing. It's picking a form that's not going to scare her, and it's consistently probably going to show up that way if she was to have more meetings with it until it can show its true form. But yeah, I would say absolutely you can recognize something's energy. And there are certain archangels that have a different resonance than others. I'll give you an example. When I've connected with Azrael, who is a angel of transformation, almost the archetypal angel of death, there is a really accurate portrayal of Azrael in the George C. Scott version of A Christmas Carol. When he meets with the angel, which is the Ghost of Christmas Future, you hear this, it's almost like a string or a violin sound. It's super high, it's a little scary, but super high pitched. So when I met Azrael, I heard a very similar high pitched energy because it is so high frequency, you actually pick up on it. And it has no form, it's hooded. Has no face. There's just, so it was very much like the archetypal one. That's not the only angel of transformation. I've met Zerakiel. There are other ones. Any angel can actually take on that responsibility. That's the archetypal one though. And I was like, wow, okay, I won't forget that. I will remember it and I will recognize that angel if I ever see it again. It was kind. It was there to show me that my mom was going to pass actually before she did. So it was preparing me so that I could deal with the grief a little bit easier. And again, it was this super high pitched sound. And it was kind of, I woke up and like my eyes were wide open and it was like, I just seen it. I was there. That's how you know it's clairvoyant. It's not just sort of some random dream where you're just going through the streets and talking to random people. Like, no, this was clairvoyant dreams strike you as real, very real. Okay. And it definitely helped me sort of see something that was about to happen. Do you find it hard to keep a routine of collecting your totems, analyzing your dreams, and listening to guides while working a full-time job? Well, this is my full-time job. I am a full-time content creator on YouTube, but I do the work of like 5 people. So yeah, that's why I've had to juggle things. Like I write the newsletters, I create daily readings, I do monthly readings, I do these special readings, I do the weekly readings. I'm trying to create a podcast. All I have on my team is a moderator that only works on Sundays and an executive producer that's helping with the podcast. But I need to grow, and I will when that organically happens. But what I do is try to get as much sleep as possible, give myself permission to change the schedule if I need to, do the best I can. I'm just one person. I do a lot. I work really hard like the rest of you. So I wish I had more hours in the day. That's my only wish. And I maybe wish that I'd started this 10 years earlier because I'm really enjoying it. But I think I appreciate it more because I spent a lot of time doing jobs I didn't like. So when I have to work a little bit harder, I just remind myself, this is not so bad. This is something that you can control, that you can kind of affect a lot of people. It's a good thing. But yeah, I get tired. I don't find collecting totems difficult. That's the fun part. Being able to analyze and actually hitting start and showing up with you, very energizing. So what I don't like is the post-production. Having to put timestamps in, having to schedule everything. There's a lot of other stuff that you guys don't see behind the sort of scenes. That's time consuming and it's tiring. Showing up, it's the most fun and enjoyable part of all of it. Connecting with you, it's very fun. Okay. But yeah, I work hard. I work every day. And I do 50 videos a month. It's a lot, folks, but that's how I've been growing the channel. And there's a lot of people that grow faster, but I like the group of people that have found me, however the algorithm works, and I'm really appreciative of your time and energy. Any advice on interpreting dreams and how to focus on important messages? How do you feel when you receive information from your guides? Interpreting dreams. Okay. Like I said, people who say I can't, some people really just don't. I guess they don't remember their dreams. I think that's possible. But I think most of us have dreams, but what you have to do is wake up. When you wake up, write it down. So even though I'm pretty good at remembering most of my dreams, I don't need a lot. I may only need 5 keywords to get me back into it. But if there's something way out there, I'm like, okay, one time I dreamt of the planets, and I saw like Jupiter with this green energy that was expanding, and then I saw the planet Earth with. So I was writing down the planets, and I just wrote down Jupiter, colors, this, that, but and it brought me back. And so all I needed was like 5 to 10 words to pull together everything. This lifetime, I'm not so much an astrologer, but I was in the past. One of my earliest past life recollections was Etruria, which is Tuscany before it was Tuscany. And I was outside with a tribe of people that was my tribe. And I was pointing to the stars. I was looking at the water. I was divinating through the stars and through astrology. And we were looking for a cliff dwelling. And I researched later, and I guess the Etrurians tried to find places that were on cliffs. I was like, I don't know how I would know this unless it was like a past life recollection. So I write it down and then I research it, because sometimes I don't know why until I wake up. I've dreamed a certain thing. Sometimes I'll hear it in my head. I had one past life recollection where I wouldn't have known the location, but in my head, I heard it echo Mesopotamia. So one of my recollections is there. And I was like, Mesopotamia, what was going on there? So like a lot of times I get homework from my dreams, random stuff. Like I heard Etruria and I was shown the astrology and I was shown the cliffs, or I heard Mesopotamia. I saw a pyramid. That was an interesting lifetime. But anyway, a lot of times it comes through dreams and I get specific pieces of information that my guides want me to learn about. You don't get to see every lifetime necessarily, because there are some things that we need to forget in order to finish up what we've set out to do on this planet. But you get to see what you need to see when you need to see it. Let's put it that way. That's how my experience has been with past life recollections. I'm answering a future question, but it's organic here. One way you can do it is through hypnosis. I don't really do that. I just kind of trust in my guides and my higher self that when I need to receive it, I'll receive it. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else. How does it feel? It feels good if you're working with high frequency energy. So typically when I do a reading, I feel a great flow of energy going through. When I'm in the presence of a higher guide, I feel really good. And if you feel not so good connection, it's time to clear your energy, set better intentions, and really sort of get in a more grounded state. Okay? All right. What other psychic or spiritual practices do you employ? This was an interesting question. Why and how, Akashic Records, Ouija, seances, spellcasting, prayer, automatic writing. Okay, so you obviously know that I use dream interpretation. I use automatic writing, and tarot as well. I would not touch with a 10-foot pole, Ouija, or seances. It's like you are dialing into a party line in spirit, and you're going to create problems unless you're really, really careful. But even then, because, and I don't even think the Ouija board should be distributed, because you're sending it out to people that don't know what they're playing around with. So this is one area where I think you have to be very clear. So before you start a reading, you always want to connect with the highest energy for the highest good. And you don't want to receive things from anything that's going to distract that connection to source energy. When you pull out a Ouija board and just say, who's here? Oh my God, don't do it. Put it away, folks. Throw that in the trash. You don't need that. Seances, I just don't know why. I think you're playing with elements there that we don't need to play with. Magic, when I'm looking at spellcasting, prayers are magic, folks. If you go to church, if you go to temple, if you go to mosque and you're saying a prayer, that's a spell. So I don't really use that word. I think that we're just connecting with intention to source. Magic is a new truth waiting to be discovered. That's actually how I defined it in the book that I wrote, my science fiction book. So if we stopped calling it like that and just said you're connecting to source with intention and creating something, it's manifestation. Magic's cool. I believe in magic, but I just think that the word magic has taken on weird connotations. So just it's manifestation, it's source energy. We can all connect to that sort of energy. Prayer, for sure. But prayer is also just, you don't have to be in a sanctified space to do it. You can just close your eyes and connect to source energy. Hope that answers your question. But put away the Ouija boards. All right. Have you ever encountered anybody in spirit who likes to stay attached to you and stir up trouble? I'd love to hear how you've dealt with it. I lived in a haunted house when I was in college, and I had a spirit attachment for a few years. I worked with a medium, and I opened up. This is when I was intuitively open. I just had a conversation with the spirit and said, don't move with me the next time. And they agreed. So if you have a haunting, if you have an attachment, if you sense something, a lot of times it's just wanting to be acknowledged. So if you don't get a bad feeling, if it's just this, if it's family, if it's already in the space and you want to claim the space, use smudging techniques, talk to the spirit, and set your boundaries. Set ownership over the space, and then you should be okay. Now, there are some places where there's sacred spaces and you're moving into it, and you might have to really make peace with how strong the attachment is and what happened in a space before you moved there. So I don't know what the rule, like every country and every state is different. I know that in the state that I live in, which is California, there is a law where you have to disclose to a future tenant if there's been a death or something violent that happened in that place. So you can ask your realtor, or you can ask the previous owner and say, what happened, and by law, they have to tell you. So I always say that, is there anything that I need to know of in this space that happened? Because you don't even have to go too far. Just say, I want a place that's clear energetically. Nowadays, most people are cool with that, but you can ask, and you should know the history of a space if you're moving into it. Okay. I think that helped, but you can get attachments detached. It's basically about just smudging yourself, setting boundaries, sometimes talking to it and saying, I don't have time for this. You need to move on. I need to focus on other things. Really being strong and having a firm sort of voice like that will help. Okay. How can you access past life memories? We talked about that. Dreams, hypnosis, meditation. Do you have any protection rituals before reading, setting intentions, meditating, praying, sometimes lighting a candle to help amplify that? What do you do with the tarot deck that doesn't have a compatible energy for you to read with? If it's brand new and you've really not used it, you could just smudge it and give it to someone that wants it. If it's something you've had for a while, you may just want to put it in the back of the closet. But if you can remove energy from something, smudging it and then using crystals to deprogram it basically. And I found that wrapping it up with like a plastic bag and putting it in salt, basically like what is it? I'm trying to think here, like a plate, put salt underneath it, put the cards on top of it, and put like a crystal, usually just a quartz crystal, and like using moonlight to kind of help with that, or sunlight, just clear it out. Give it a month or two and smudge it every day, and eventually you can kind of work your energy out. But if it's not taking up too much space, just put it in the bag. I have probably 2 or 3 decks where I'm like, we're probably never going to use them, but I'm not sure I really want to give them to anyone because I've used them a few times, so I just leave them in storage. But you can deprogram. It just takes a little bit of work. I typically, not typically, I don't buy a deck that someone's used. I bought one that was in an estate sale that had never been used. It was just in storage. And I talked to the person. I'm like, okay. And I felt the energy. And I'm like, yeah, there's nothing here. I don't accept gifted decks for that reason. Someone got really upset when I rejected one. I'm like, no, I just don't accept that because I don't want energy imprints on the decks that I'm reading with. So also for just logistical, safety, legal reasons, I don't accept gifted decks. So good to put it out there because someone got angry with me and I'm like, I'm sorry, but that's just a policy. So, but it's also protection of space and energy. All right, next. Yes, I need a vacation. I'm working on that. What I'm hoping for though is that I'm working on a podcast for this summer. I'm in the pre-production phase and I'll do production. And then once they're all produced, I'll probably release them on a weekly basis for like 2.5 months or something like that, because I'm hoping to have about 10. So if this is something that you guys like and I can do more of, then I can do more of those and pull back on some of the other types of production. But basically, I'm always experimenting with different flows here. But yeah, vacation would be nice. I don't think I've taken one since 2015. Fun fact. I work really hard. I take breaks, but I haven't taken like a holiday, a proper trip. So I'm hoping to get into a production flow where I can do that, and hopefully, like I said, get a team where I can make that happen. But it's pretty much a one-person show here. So everything you see, every graphic, every time, except for the timestamps, Dakota helps me with that. But sometimes it's me if he's busy. So it's a lot. So be patient, folks. If you're ever like, where's the timestamps? Or I haven't seen this, or why are you 15 minutes late? It's because I'm juggling a lot of things and I'm doing my best. But yeah, understand it's just one person that does everything on the channel here. Okay. How do you know if a chakra is open or closed? A lot of times we have things in our body that will kind of be a signal. So if you're having indigestion issues, it could, I mean, of course, go to your doctor and talk about that, but it could also be, your solar plexus needs to be opened. If you're having, problems breathing, or again, go to a doctor, but if you're feeling like a closing down of this area, it could be the heart chakra. Sore throats can indicate, again, aside from the malady, which needs to be treated by the doctor, standard disclaimers apply here. I should put that. I am not a doctor. Seek a doctor if you need doctor's assistance. But a lot of times where we have the block, it's actually going to show up as a malady. If you just breathe and meditate and focus on how you feel in each zone of your body, each of the 7 main chakras, it'll probably reveal itself as well. Okay? Exercise is a great way to open it. Meditation is a great way to open it. All right. Next up, do you believe everyone has there's all the different clairs. Do you believe everyone has psychic abilities? Yeah, I do. I believe that some people are afraid of them, so they don't access them as much. I think that some people may not want to put the work as much into them, so they may not develop them as far as they could go. There's any number of reasons that people have. It's the same way, like, can everybody express themselves? Yeah, but through different like, some people are better at writing, some people are better at drawing. We can all usually scribble something on paper, but not everything is going to look beautiful. So it's about how much you want to learn the craft. Okay? So yes, you can learn and you can go deeper, and everyone has a connection to it. That's part of why I show up here, is to empower you to grow your skills. Okay? So the short answer is yes. And then the longer answer is practice makes perfect, which I put on the side there. It's a spiritual practice. Oh, one thing that's kind of cool to look at here. Not every tarot reader is psychic. Not every psychic is a medium, and not every psychic or medium reads tarot. So tarot is a way to divine energy. I would say that you're clairvoyant, you're connected, but there are tarot readers that are really, really plugged in and psychic, so they're not always mutually inclusive. Not every psychic needs to use cards or wants to, and not every medium needs or wants to use cards. Psychic individuals can see things and know things before they've happened or without previous knowledge. Not all psychics are mediums and can talk to the dead. Mediums may solely be mediums and may not have the ability to sometimes see what's about to happen or they probably can see the past. So I would say most mediums are psychic, but not every psychic is a medium. So there's different sort of like categories here. I would say you can start to grow into all of them if you keep practicing. I think everybody can reach into those areas with varying degrees of success. Okay, there we go. How do you shield your home or space to make sure that powerful spirits or heavy energy doesn't stay in the space? So about the time that I decided to do all of this, I just decided to not have readings in my home. Like I didn't invite people into my space because safety issues, legal issues, licensing issues, and then also energy. If someone's in a really deep state, or a dark state, they're gonna bring that and imprint it here, and then I'm gonna have to clean it up. So think about who you're inviting in your spaces. If you don't like hanging out with them, don't invite them home. Don't spend time in your space with them. If you are looking at some of the objects in your place and you have sad memories attached to them, it's time to find a new home for those objects. Clear your space. Clutter attracts low frequencies. So do some cleaning this weekend. Clean the closets, clean all around you. Let the energy flow freely. Use crystals, natural light. You can even use music, mantra, all that jazz to kind of help things out. I think it's common, a little dose of common sense with all of that, but it's good to know. Also, in addition to using Clorox, use some smudge. Take some sage and smudge your house. So I do it at least once a week because of what I do. Incense will work too, but sage works really well. Some people have allergies to one or the other, so you can play around with different. There's a lot of different things that you can use to clear, like with burning them, different resins and things, frankincense and things like that. The other thing you can do is take the singing bowl and you can play it in each room. Sound therapy also works. Okay, I think that's all common sense. Do you have any recommendations or techniques for staying safe when you're connecting with spirits? Intention is everything. I would say when you're praying, set the intention. So you could say, first you pray and connect to source. Then you say, today I would like to connect to this to clarify this. And I'm only looking for, if you're trying to talk to a specific archangel or ascended master, them and them alone, or God itself and nothing else. Whatever you want to do, set the intention so the other stuff is filtered out. Filters, just like you would have drop-down menus and you filter it out, you do the same thing when you meditate. The key here is specific on whom you intend to connect with and work with and why. And then do it in a clean space, which then is a sanctified space. You don't have to be in church or temple or anything like that. Just have a clear space in your home, and that's going to help you clearly connect as well. Would you recommend any specific spread when asking for a connection or communication with a loved one or spirit? Keep it simple, one card. So you could say, it's now a good time to talk to the person that you're talking to. So if it's your mom or if it's your grandma, say their name, set the intention that you want to connect, and say, is now good. Start with that. How are you doing today? Is there anything you want me to know? And just pull a card at a time. If you want to check in on their progress on the other side, you could pull 3-card or a traditional Celtic cross, but you don't need to pull 10 cards with every question. 1 card's enough. That's one thing that I was trying to train us with on some of the weekend collectives. Sometimes I like, for a special topic, a Celtic cross. If we're going to do a bunch of questions or something special, sometimes we just need 3. Sometimes we need 1. We don't always need the traditional spread. So don't overwhelm yourself. Aside from doing political work, protesting, organizing, how can we channel our spiritual power to create change? I don't think you even need to make it political. That was one comment. But do you recommend prayer or healing circles? So before we get into any of that, why not writing, art, teaching, community or outreach, or volunteer work? None of those are political. All of those have an impact. All of those are going to touch a lot of people. Music and art touch so many people out there. And you can put messages and poetry to music. It's going to connect with a larger audience. So you don't have to do politics. Actually, if we look back at like the 60s and 70s, at least here in the United States, when there was a lot of political unrest, some really cool music and protest music came out in that period of time. And it still resonates today. So music can absolutely be a great way, and art and writing. Writing, of course, is a great way to take a narrative and put it in some sort of other, sort of like a different backdrop, so it's not so on the nose. So so many ways. You're just basically working with your creative muse and deciding, how can I make the biggest impact? Those prayer circles and all of that, I think they're just helping empower the physical work that you're doing. Did I actually reach the last one? Oh my God, we got through that. That was exciting. Okay, so that was pretty good. That's why I wanted to make sure I had it all in a deck. It was a little faster. Okay, so let's see. Because we're live, and I'm kind of looking here, is there a couple of questions that some of you have? We'll spend the last 15 minutes or so taking some questions from all of you. Just checking in on everything here. Looking good. Connection's good. All right, so throw a couple questions into chat. No guarantee. If I can answer them, I'll answer them. I'm not going to be able to answer everybody's, but if you have one, now's the time to ask, and maybe we'll pull a card at the end here. All right, and I'm just kind of going through what you guys have all written here. Thanks for the congratulations. Thanks for all of you showing up. By the way, if you like this, while I'm waiting for some questions, do me a favor, like, subscribe, share this. I was hoping we'd have a few more viewers showing up, but it is a Friday at noon, so hopefully some people will see this on replay. You can also follow me across social media so that you never miss an upcoming video, and I hope you do. And thank you in advance to anybody that gave back. Okay, a reminder, by the way, if you ever need my schedule or if you need more information, you can go to my website. And I don't offer private readings. I finally have a verification check mark on Instagram, so you should be able to know who's who. I'm verified on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Mastodon. So check for that verification. to make sure it's me, and just know that I don't use DMs here. No need to put caps for me to read them. Just put a couple questions here. Okay. What to do with names that you hear while you're asleep? Write them down and see how they factor out into everyday life. Could just be, you know, a heads up on who's coming in. So just keep track of things, journal. Let's see here. What's the coolest spiritual experience you've ever had? That's a great question. I like that one. I don't know if there's like a single one that I would say is the coolest, but one of the most memorable ones was when I kind of had a guide come through, I had a guide come through, and when I was first awakening, they kind of helped me open up the whole energy system. So it was almost like they reached in energetically and just pulled from the root chakra all the way to the crown. And it was so intense that I had to like take a deep breath. It was like jumping into cold water, and I awakened. So that was like the most memorable thing. And it was sort of like, hey, are you ready to show up? Because we've got a lot of information that needs to come through. So that they just kind of opened me up. Kind of like a Kundalini awakening, but it was faster. So that was one thing. How can you tell a premonition from a dream? It's important information, not random. So if you are dreaming and none of it makes any sense, you're just probably processing stuff from the day. If you're seeing people that have passed into spirit, if you're really paying attention to something, if you feel different when you wake up and you think that was real, pay attention to that. Sometimes we see different timelines. The more you practice lucid dreaming, the more you practice journaling your dreams, the more you're going to be able to discern. Everybody's a little different on that. I can't give you a blanket answer than to say it's not random if you're actually picking up on something that's going to be helpful to you. How do I feel about Reiki? I have Reiki 1 attunement. Reiki's great. I also had this awakening that happened after I did Reiki, where spirit was like, you don't necessarily need to go through it's sort of like it's like a language connecting to source, and they're like, you kind of have a more fluid one, so you don't have to do that if you don't want to. I was like, okay, so I'll just connect directly like the magician. I don't necessarily have to put a layer of filtering on top of it, but Reiki works, and Reiki is good for people that need to do Reiki, and some people are natural healers, and I have this sort of background where in a past life it just sort of came through more naturally. So yeah, it's great. And it works, and I receive Reiki from time to time. So yes. Do you need a tarot certification to read tarot? No. And who's ever charging for you for certification, you don't have to do that. It's basically, did I learn from someone? Yes. Did I pay them? Yes. But was there a certificate? No. And basically the reason I really like this person is they encourage you to do the homework. And basically it's sort of like thinking you need a certification to be able to speak a language. You could maybe be certified as fluent or fluent rather, but like you don't need a certification. Just practice, just connect, just read up on it. There's no schools necessarily right now for it. It'd be great. Wouldn't it be cool if there was something that was the equivalent of a psychic university where you could learn all these skills one day, maybe a few hundred years from now, but not yet. Let's see. Enzo had a good question here. Do I ever get any random strong alert messages merely from live scrolling? What I've tried to do is to not get too connected to... I try not to connect to everything that I see, or else I get exhausted. So no, but through practice and through putting up barriers. What I can see, typically the way it works for me is I see what I need to see. So just a couple weeks ago, this was before I got verified on Instagram, I saw that someone was trying to put up a fake profile. I woke up, I looked at it, and there was a fake profile. I was like, all right, that was an interesting hit. I could actually see the person taking the videos, downloading and uploading. I didn't know I couldn't see them. I saw the act happening. So sometimes I'll see stuff like that. So I can see someone's intentions. Sometimes I can just tell if someone, how they're feeling or whatever, but like I try not to connect too much here in the chat, or I would be exhausted because there's a lot. Even though we only have maybe like 400 people here, if I was connecting to all 400 at once, it would be overwhelming. When I do the collectives, because I'm using the cards instead of connecting to each name there, I'm still very tired after a collective reading. I usually have to take a nap that afternoon. It's exhausting. So Sunday readings are tough for me because it's a lot that I'm doing for a lot of people. Sign by sign readings, a lot less intense. Sunday readings, it's an energetic workout. Let's see. Do you incorporate dream material in your readings? Subscribe and take a look at any of my monthly ones. I start off with channel messages, every reading pretty much, except today's reading and my 1-card readings because we don't really put it there. Let's see what else is going through here. Would I consider doing a retreat? Not right now, not yet. I have too many other projects. And I think that I can reach so many more people here where a retreat would only be a few hundred people. So I can reach just as many through this right now. But who knows what the future holds. What do you make of physical vibrations as indications of connection with the divine? Are you talking about like something shaking? Or are you talking about how you feel? So yes, every spirit has a vibration. And the higher the vibration, the more pleasant the feeling. So if you're in the presence of something that's in a really high frequency, you need to be grounded. When I first started, if I wasn't grounded, what happens sometimes is you feel like you haven't had enough to eat. You get a little bit dizzy. You feel a little discombobulated because sometimes when it's that high, it takes a lot to kind of channel it through. But typically you never feel bad. You should always feel elevated or positive if you're connecting with a higher frequency. How would one know if they had a vision? You'll remember it. I'm not being sort of silly there. I would say the word vision is kind of loaded. Like you can close your eyes and see something. Now, when I close my eyes and see something, it's not as vivid as my dream. What I can see in my head is closer to like, it's the eye. It's so weird because you're not necessarily, this is something, by the way, people have written before, like, I can't see things when I meditate. So I can really vividly see things when I dream. And when I'm meditating, I'm shown more of a symbol, or it's more like it's in black and white, or it's like a sketch. It's not like what you would see on the TV show Medium, where she closes her eyes and she sees real life. What I see is impressions, symbols. You'll get better at kind of discerning what visions mean for you, but it doesn't have to be like a movie playing in your head. In fact, I might argue that it's more valuable and accurate if it's not that vivid, because then you can just take what you need from it. But if you thought you saw them, you probably saw them. And if you're just picking up on a memory or some sort of something that's going through your head, you probably are connecting with them. Let's see, what are you thinking about doing for your vacation? Too soon to ask on that one. And I wouldn't tell people where I was going just for safety, but who knows? It's something that I'd like to go somewhere where I can see the stars. I'll say that much. That's something that I'd like to do. Okay, I like this one. I mean, this is, I'm sure people would be curious about this. Do you have a favorite and least favorite tarot card? I love major arcana cards, like I said earlier, because they're so vivid and easy. Oddly enough, the longer that I've read, the more powerful Judgment has become for me, because it shows second chances, rebirth, reinvention. And in a big part of our sort of, it kind of summarizes the human experience, Judgment. We die and then we're born again, and then we die and then we're born again. Like we just keep doing it. So that's a symbol of why we come to the planet every time. I think that's why it's the second to last card. I love the Star card because it's connection to source. That's probably one of my favorites too. Those are two of my favorites. I mean, because they're two of the most powerful ones, right? The Hermit's pretty cool. He holds the star in his lantern, and he's the wisest of all of them. So if I had to have a party and invite some of the major arcana, well, first of all, I'd bring the lovers along, because we need love and unconditional love and happiness. I'd want the Star card there. And yeah, I think it'd be cool to have death or judgment, because they could show you what's beyond So those are some of my favorites. I mean, they're all good, but if I had to pick a few, I'm not afraid of the death card. I think it's fantastic when it comes through a spread. So death and judgment are exciting as a reader when I pull. I'm like, oh, let's see what's happening this month. Something's shifting, something's changing. I don't work yet with the Akashic Records. That's something I'd love to learn more about and connect more with. And yeah, the Magician's amazing, of course. Actually, I would identify a lot with the Magician energy because it's the beginning of all things, kind of. Someone keeps asking about their father, and if there's if you're dreaming of a relative and there's a size difference, it's just because of probably how you're seeing them differently in your life now. Maybe they're a bigger or smaller part of your life. Maybe there's some power dynamics you want to be looking at. It's not about how tall someone is. It's more about what that makes you feel and how you feel about that. I already talked about protecting myself from negative energy. Twin flames and soulmates, why do we focus so much on them? I see that question, and I think there's a lot of conversations around soulmates. And let me tell you what I think about soulmates. Soulmate is a karmic relationship. So sometimes the karma, it's like, think of baggage, 2 or 3 bags that you're carrying with you. Sometimes the baggage is heavy. Sometimes it's filled with things you don't need. Sometimes it's just enough, it's perfect. So it really depends on the baggage that the soulmate's bringing. All a soulmate is, let's retitle it, they are karmic partners or karmic connections. So I would say, is the karma good, or does the karma need to be worked on a little bit? Is there some friction, some negativity, some ties from the past that you need to kind of cut? Once you've sorted through the karma is the least interesting piece. Then it's sort of like, now why am I reconnecting with them in this lifetime? What are we trying to see differently this time? Oftentimes a soulmate or twin flame or karmic relationship brings a lot of challenges and baggage from both sides, and it requires a little bit more work. And think of it this way. Every soulmate was at one point you met them sometime the first time. So you meet someone for the first time, the next life they're a soulmate or they're a karmic partner because you've had history. So all it is someone that you've had history with. Isn't it fun when you meet someone for the first time? I know I like to meet new people, so don't be afraid to meet new people. And just because they're not a soulmate, that doesn't mean that it's going to be a bad relationship or less deep. It might be the person you've been looking for to kind of, engage with in the next portion of your life. So too much focus on soulmates, too much focus on twin flames. That's why I don't put so much emphasis on it here. So yeah, here's my understanding or connection so far, and it will kind of change as I'm maybe get more access to the Akashic Records. But everything we do in every lifetime, every thought, every deed, every action is recorded. And if you want to relate to it like a library, you could imagine it as such. But it could also be a much more kind of like when you think of how we store data on silicon, it's kind of amazing. You don't need to write it. It's not necessarily that sort of like literal. But there is a memory or a record of what has happened in all your lifetimes. It's like your soul's book. And every soul has that store of information. So but yes, like a library, but not necessarily literally like a library, because we don't have to actually touch the book. We can just connect with the record and download the information. More like an ebook. Now that we're more in a digital realm, it's a store of information in a sort of etheric realm that anybody can tap into with the proper sort of protocol. The people that I've known that have connected with it more, they usually need date of birth, name, and permission. And then they need to know how to access it. So there's some skills, there's some attunement, but that's kind of my understanding of the Akashic Records. This is a great question, especially today, because I think it's it's a National Trans sort of like Acknowledgement Day. But you feel like masculine and feminine energy is highly misunderstood. I agree. Fun fact, we've been everything in every lifetime. So you've been male, you've been female, you've been non-binary, you've walked all the different walks. And my experience with angels in particular, they don't have gender. God itself doesn't have gender. Why would it be constrained to two genders when it creates everything in this planet and beyond and in the universe? It's an it, folks. We keep trying to gender it. It's not. If it was anything, it would be more on the feminine side because it birthed everything, right? So that's something to kind of like twist your head around. But we are inherently both and more than that. And so the fact that we try to identify as solely one or another and then punish people who can't identify as one or the other, it's crazy. I think if we thought of God as an it, everything would be a lot easier and we wouldn't care so much. We would just be people living our lives, loving other people, and having a great experience on this planet. So you can access both. I don't know when we were taught or when we decided that we had to put it in these sort of categories. That's part of the reason I wanted to wear a unicorn today, a pink unicorn. Why not? Who cares? Have fun. Life is too short, okay? Are there specific crystals that you work with? I have a few in here. I have a selenite globe behind me. I have I'll think of this one in a second because it never looks like what it is. I love quartz. I love selenite. And why can't I think of this one? This will come to me. But of course, in the other room, I actually have amethyst. Amethyst is a great one to have. Citrine. The reason I never remember this as citrine because this is what citrine really looks like, not the color-treated quartz that most of us get. So this has a sort of greenish, yellowish hue to it, but it's not like bright orange or yellow. So this is one of my favorite ones. So those are some crystals that I work with. Someone's saying there's yin and yang. Yeah, there is. And they swirl together. So you just paint with all the colors in the rainbow and stop focusing so much on one or the other. I think that we would be stronger if we were both allowed to dip into the pool of either side. If you're only looking at it from one perspective, you're missing 50% of the puzzle. That's my 2 cents worth on that. Yeah, it is really nice citrine. This is fantastic. Let's see if there's anything else that's going on here. Favorite music. So for me, music that makes you feel good. It can be spiritual music. It can be pop. It can be dance. It can be 70s. Like I have a really eclectic mix because of my parents and what they exposed me to. And so common thread in all of it, though, is I typically feel good listening to it. So I don't like music that makes sounds angry or makes me feel too sad. Like catharsis can be good, but typically if I'm listening to music, it's to elevate the energy. But I don't think any one genre is better than another. I think each genre can have music that lifts up, that inspires. So I like a lot. It's a wide canopy. Okay, I think we're almost at time here, but hopefully I helped you guys today. Let me know if you like this. In the comments when I end the live stream, let me know if you enjoyed this, if you want me to do more. If there's any types of readings that I haven't yet done on this channel that you'd like to see some more of. I did see some questions about like what I consider guided meditations. I did them. I did them during COVID. They weren't very popular. Not that many people watched them. Maybe it's something I could do for members. I have also done an intuitive, intuitive development series. And again, not the most popular of all the videos that I did. So I just stopped doing them because not many people were watching them. So meditations are the lowest watched of all of mine, oddly enough. So I've incorporated a little bit of meditation at the end of every video, just as a way to kind of get back. But maybe it's something that I'll do for like members or something like that in the future. If I have time for the full moon, I will. I'm trying to do as many full and new moon or celestial readings as I can, and any eclipse readings if I remember, and time permitting, because I got a lot going on. So there we go. Okay. Yeah, and this just as a quick schedule update. As I get further into April and May, I may juggle around some of my days because I'm usually like clockwork every Monday, Thursday, Friday. And usually the first of any month is going to be the beginning of the, I read ahead. But I may need to move the dates around as I start to record the podcast over the next couple of months. Again, it's not going to launch until late summer. But just to have some flexibility and get these recorded because I have a studio and everything, I might be needing to do that. So heads up on that. So I appreciate your flexibility there. All right, guys, thank you for showing up. Thank you for making this possible. And I hope you enjoyed today's sort of gift back to you. All right. Sending you infinite love and light and appreciation. Again, let's get to the next milestone. I'll do this again and I'll answer some of the questions I didn't have a chance to today. So like, subscribe, share, let some other folks know that you enjoy what you see here. Give me a follow across social media. I'll try to remind you of future stuff. Thank you in advance to anybody that gave back. In fact, I want to give a little bit of gratitude for that. So let's see if there were any new members that joined today or any super stickers, and then we'll wrap up. All right, so starting with memberships, I think there was a bunch of new ones actually today. So let's see. Thank you to Audrey, Garson, Candy, Renee, Fiona, and Gabrielle, all of whom either joined or rejoined this morning. Good to have you here. I appreciate you. All right, and for super stickers and super chat, let me see if we had some. I think we have 2 today. So thank you to Melissa and Cynthia for showing up and showing some love and support. I appreciate that. I think I caught everybody. I'm just going to scroll through to see if I missed anybody or anything. I don't think so. That was it, folks. All right. I hope you enjoyed. Hope I can do more of these in the future. In the comments below, if you'd like me to try something different besides a Q&A, I'm also open to do that. And hopefully we'll, things that I've never done on this channel. And I'd have to look into like the rights, but I could do reaction videos. I've never I've talked about the Medium TV show and stuff like that. If you'd ever like me to look at like different TV shows or movies and react to how accurate the portrayal is of a medium or a psychic, I could do that. I never kind of like really got on the reaction trail with all of that, but like I quite liked Whoopi Goldberg in Ghost, or I talked about the Medium series. There are some times where I think they were putting too much emphasis on what you saw, but anyway, yeah, that's something I could do. Let me know. I'm up for new ideas, especially if you think it might be something that other people would like, because I want to kind of break out of the standard routine of everything that I've done forever and ever here and do a few new things like the podcast, maybe some reaction videos, maybe some other things. So it just kind of came to me as I'm talking. I'm like, maybe that. All right. So keep me posted. Put some comments below. I read every comment. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a good one. Enjoy the weekend, and happy April. I'll be sending out the newsletter this weekend, so if you haven't subscribed, you can subscribe to that as well. You can find some information on my website. It'll be right at the top or in the footer. You can find out how to subscribe. All right. Take care, everyone. And here's a link to my website in case you need it. All right. Have a great day. Lots of love and light. See you soon. Bye-bye.